Hey everybody, Tekking here, and I should probably address the elephant in the room right now. Why am I wearing my Trafalgar Law hat? Because I hate my hair. That is the reason I'm wearing my Trafalgar Law hat. Anyway, now on to the actual part of the video. We're going to be getting and discussing Tekking Reads the Divine Comedy Part 6, Purgatorio. Or Purgatory, the actual book. The title varies depending if you want to go with the translation. But anyway, so Purgatory, just to give you a quick rundown exactly what's going on here, and just to give you a little recap. So basically, in the context of the journey, Dante and Virgil begin their journey in Hell, which is situated directly underneath of Jerusalem. Now, keep in mind, this is like the archaic way that the people viewed the Earth back then. Back then, at least in the version of the Divine Comedy, the Earth was split into two hemispheres as it is now, except one hemisphere was the hemisphere of just land, the other hemisphere was the hemisphere of just water. So, not exactly as much as we think of today. Basically though, in that context, the hemisphere of water was just that. There was absolutely no land, save for Purgatory. That was the one place where there was any land in all of the water hemisphere. So, literally, they had to travel through the center of the planet, through Hell, and travel upon this winding road, and they popped out the other side. So they are emerging right before the Mountain of Purgatory, so they're kind of like climbing out of the water, in a sense. Like I said, it gets kind of vague exactly how they're traveling through the rest of the planet, but they're emerging on the shore of Mount Purgatory, which is basically an island out in the middle of the ocean, and it's just before dawn on Easter Sunday. Now, Purgatory itself, the way I would describe it would be Hell, except with a time limit. What I mean by that is, there are still punishments in Purgatory. People are still being tortured, people are still being, the sinners are being punished, but the only difference between Hell is eternal. So the people in like the lust level of Hell, they're going to get blown around in that giant thunderstorm fall of eternity. They're not going to get a chance to be saved. They're done. Purgatory, on the other hand, might be pretty bad, might be pretty fiery and torturous, but there's hope. That's the one thing, would be hope. There's like a time limit that if you just stay in this one place for long enough, you'll eventually ascend to the earthly paradise or heaven, and you'll eventually get out. That's the essential point there, and that's the main point of Purgatory, is to kind of purge the evil that's left in our hearts. So it's like, there's not enough evil in you to be sent to Hell, but once again, heaven is the opposite of Hell. So, Hell is full of the sinners, heaven is full of the pure. So there's no sinners allowed in Hell, allowed in heaven. So you have to be completely pure of heart to get into heaven, which I think a lot of us can think of. Like, a lot of us can probably say, we're not really sinners, like, I'm not really that bad, but at the same time, I'm probably not pure of heart, okay? And if you are, then you're a saint and you should be canonized immediately. Anyway, so that's the point of Purgatory. Those are the people that are kind of like in the middle ground, that are not nearly bad, but they still have some lingering lust or some lingering wrath, and they just need to get that purged and removed from them before they can ascend to the almighty creation heaven, whichever you want to call it. So, on to the actual place of Purgatory. Okay, so first thing that Dante and Virgil do upon climbing out of the river, tunnel, whatever, is they arrive on the shore of Mount Purgatory, and Dante decides that they should probably clean themselves off because, you know, they literally just walk through hell. So like I said before, they're all filthy, they're covered in all the different slime and muck or whatever the hell you want to, all the stuff they had to walk through in hell. So it's kind of symbolic that they go down to the river, and before they begin the ascent onto Purgatory, they kind of clean themselves off with the waters from the ocean, just to make sure, you know, just to get wash all the sins of hell off them, and time to move on. Alright, so Purgatory itself is broken up into two broad areas. Like I said, that's broken into several sub-levels, just like Hell was. This is kind of like Hell had passive sin territory and active sin territory. Purgatory has Ante-purgatory and Purgatory proper, the actual mountain. And you can see on this diagram here that the actual purgatory has different levels. There's 7 terraces, but the part before those levels, it's just like a mountainous terrain. That's Ante-purgatory. Like, you know how like you walk in like you ever walk into like a building and you have to go into like a tiny like kind of like a sub room before you get into like a massive room. Like a lot of factories have those. If that's kind of a way to put into like an ante room. Well, the deal with the Ante-purgatory is it deals with people that are late repentant or excommunicated. So there's two processes here. The first one is the excommunicated. Those who are removed from their church, probably by something they did or something they committed. So if you're a Catholic and you did something, or maybe the church decided to excommunicate you so you're no longer a member of the Catholic Church, you would go to the excommunicated. So that's a little bit odd there, because if you were excommunicated against your will, I can kind of see it. But at the same time, if you get excommunicated from a church, you probably did something really bad. It probably was not against your will. It's not just like you walk into church one day and the reverend's just like, "Hey, you, take your shoes off. You're excommunicated." You know, it's probably not like, you know, like that. So if you did something to get excommunicated, you probably did something pretty bad to begin with. But let's just say if you're excommunicated, okay. So if you're excommunicated, and I'm going to be going off the book a lot here because, you know, with Hell, I didn't own the book when I was talking about Hell. This time I actually own the book, and this is the one I read the most. So I probably, it's like I can get to this freaking diagram. There's a really cool page on here that tells you all the different punishments and how you have to live them, and it's actually really cool. Is it near the end of the book? It might be near the end of the book. It's like a chart. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. That's like a chart from heaven to hell with like the different constellations. Should probably go into the exact physical representation here. So if you want to look at it this way, because in the Divine Comedy, as opposed to real life, heaven, hell, purgatory, they all have physical locations. Hell is symbolic of evil, so it's like under the earth. Purgatory is symbolic of, I guess, healing or hope, so it would be on the earth's surface itself. And heaven is the planets. So the different levels of heaven are the different planets. So yeah, if I can find this freaking page, I really should have planned this beforehand. I apologize. You can just enjoy looking at my funny hat. Oh, come on, where the hell is it? Oh, wait. Okay, I got it. We're good. This will be my handy dandy notebook for the rest of Purgatory. All right, so Ante-purgatory, we have the excommunicated. So the penance of the excommunicated basically goes like you have to spend X amount of years in this in just like the bottom of the mountain before you even have the right to climb the mountain. So you have to spend how many years you spent excommunicated times 30. So yeah, so if you were excommunicated, let's just say you were excommunicated at age 50, and you die at age 60. So you spent 10 years of your earthly life excommunicated from the Catholic Church, or you know, whatever church you belong to, and you die. So you don't go to hell, you go to purgatory. You go to the very, very bottom of Mount Purgatory, and you have to spend 10 years times the 10 years you spent excommunicated times 30, so 300. You need to spend 300 years at the bottom of this mountain just twiddling your thumbs before you even have the right to climb the mountain. And I'm not like, that's a big ass mountain, okay? It's a freaking mountain. It's no matter way you look at it. It's going to take a while for you to climb the actual mountain. It's not just like, you know, you wait 300 years and, oh, I can climb it, I can get done with that shit in a week. No, that's not how it goes. Especially since later on we'll get into, there's actually certain rules of like what times you're allowed to climb the mountain. Like you're not allowed to climb the mountain at night. There's different rules involving that. But yeah, so that's if you're excommunicated. So next up in Ante-purgatory, the second section is the late repentant. So I believe we've all heard the kind of stories where, I'm actually going to bookmark this. I believe we've all heard the stories that, what about deathbed repentance? What happens if you live a life You don't pay much attention to God. You don't pay much attention to religion. But at the very end of your life, when you know you're going to die and you know death is imminent, you're like, oh, I'm sorry, God. Please forgive this lost soul. I really want to, like, late repentance. And a lot of people are saying, like, oh, well, if you are late repentant, then you'll go to heaven. Other people are saying no, because you don't really mean it. It's just coming from that, like, you're feeling lost, you're feeling hopeless, you're feeling like this is the only thing you can do now to be saved, so it doesn't count. Well, it kind of does count, but at the same time, you don't go to hell. So, you don't go to hell, you do go to purgatory, but, you go to a little bit higher up than the excommunicated, you go like one section above them, and the punishment you have to deal with is you have to stay in that section of purgatory for how many years your earthly life was. So not quite as bad as the excommunicated. So if you, let's say you live to be 72 and you died and you just did the late repentant thing, like the deathbed repentance, you have to spend 72 years in this section of purgatory before you're allowed to climb the mountain. So like I said, not as bad as excommunicated. At least they didn't multiply the number by anything. But yeah, excommunicated, that's kind of a kick in the teeth, isn't it? Like, you get there and it's like, oh, don't worry, you didn't go to hell. Oh, thank God. You have to spend 300 years here, though. I'm like, oh, for the love. See, that's what I meant. Like, it's hell with the time limit, but the time limits can be pretty bad. It's not just like, hang out in that corner for 10 minutes and you can climb up to heaven. No, the time limits are pretty long, but at least it's a time limit, because that concept, eternity, that's pretty bad. Like, we can't even fathom how that works, but at least a time limit of something would be a little bit better, Like, what would you rather spend? 300 years laying around doing nothing, or, an eternity getting tortured in a sea of slush and then muck, So, yeah, that is the Ante-purgatory right there. That's all I'm going to get into in this video. After that, though, I'll get into really quickly. So after Dante and Virgil pass through that section of purgatory, they come across the actual gates. And this is where St. Peter is. And I know we all think that St. Peter, he's the guy that watches the gates of heaven. Well, in a sense, heaven doesn't really have a gate. It gets really metaphysical when we get to heaven. Heaven is really like, a best way to describe heaven is like, oh, it's there, but it's not really there. It's very metaphysical when we get to that point. But I guess in a sense this would be the gateway to heaven, because this is how you eventually would ascend to eventually get to that place. So in a sense it would be considered the gates of heaven, but it's the gates of Purgatory and Purgatorio. So there we meet St. Peter, and St. Peter, what he does with Dante is he places 7 P's atop his forehead. So he inscribes P 7 times throughout his forehead, and every time they pass through a terrace, one of the P's is removed. So eventually when he gets to the very top, and all 7 are removed, because there's 7 terraces of purgatory, they're all set after the 7 deadly sins. So yeah, so next time we'll get to that. Anything else I want to mention really about this, about how purgatory works? Okay, I almost forgot this. Okay, so this is a diagram of how it works out planetarily. Like I said, it's very physical, like how, like where these places are on the planet where you can go and see them. So we start off on this side of the planet, which is Jerusalem, and we start over here, which is Purgatory. So like I said, those are on opposite sides of the planet. But the major point of this is the cantos compare Dante and Virgil's pilgrimage through hell into purgatory, similar to the Israelites escaping Egypt in Exodus, the Bible book of Exodus. And this is due because they're both seeking salvation. So the Israelites leave Egypt to seek salvations, similar to the way that Virgil and Dante is leaving Jerusalem in the same way to the promised land of heaven. So they both have a promised land, they both have some type of salvation journey going on there. It's just in a much more smaller way when it comes to Dante. So yeah, that's just something I wanted to mention really quite quickly there. I just find it interesting just reading about how just how the world was viewed back then and how the place was, because back then, like they had some idea that the world was essentially round and round in shape, but aside from that, they didn't really know much. They didn't know which countries existed, which continents existed. They knew a little bit about magnetism, so they still had a North and South Pole, but it's like it's like looking through like a different scope of the world, like how they viewed the place back then. So it's really cool just looking at that. Alright, so this video has dragged on for long enough. Okay guys, so next time we'll be getting to the Purgatory proper, 7 terraces, 7 deadly sins, and yeah, so see you there. Hopefully my hair will not be as messy as it is now. Okay, see you guys.